Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Racket City Yardstead. My name's Sarah if you're new, and I'm so glad you're here. So you guys can see here, rotisserie chicken. We have done rotisserie chicken videos in the past, and we're working with rotisserie chicken today. We are going to make some Asian-inspired chicken broth. This is a new idea to me. Other people have probably done it. I don't know. But we love ramen. And a few months ago, we canned up pork and spicy broth. It was delicious. It's a recipe from one of the Ball canning books. And I have a video that I can link if you guys are interested. But we used every single jar of that to make ramen. It was just so good. And we loved the flavorful broth. We loved having that kick of protein from the pork. And so I got in my head that we could do something similar with the rotisserie chickens. We are gluten-free in our house, and so we get this millet and brown rice ramen at Costco. It comes with 8 blocks of the ramen noodles for about $10, and that is by far the most economical way I have found to get gluten-free ramen noodles. But there's no seasoning, and so that was why I got this idea for the Asian flavored broth. So the first thing I need to get going on is getting these chicken carcasses into my pot, and then we'll start adding in those Asian flavors. All right, y'all. I am gonna just put my chicken carcasses straight into this pot, and then we are gonna add about 2 gallons of water here. Now that I've got all the water added to this, we're going to get this up to a medium-high heat and bring it to a boil. And we can get working on the other ingredients we want to add. We are going to add a whole bunch of scallions, probably close to a cup of scallions. I am going to cut the bottoms off just because sometimes there's some dirt trapped down there, even when you wash them really well. So I'm just going to chop them in half as well, just so we can have them fit a little bit better in our pot. Next, we're going to add garlic. I am going to add about 2 full heads of garlic and just chop them in half. There's not really any need to peel these either, and they'll be easier to fish out later. And then I have this big old nub of garlic. This is organic garlic, which I bought specifically because when I was researching this recipe and trying to find what I wanted to do exactly, I saw where people were not peeling the garlic. So I wanted to make sure we had organic for that purpose. And I am going to cut it up a little bit just so there's more surface space for that flavor to get in. And then the last thing we're going to add right now is some dried shiitake mushrooms. I went to my local Asian grocery to get these. Ooh. They do have a really strong umami thing going on, which is why you add these. There was one other ingredient that I would have added now, but I could not find it locally, and it is called kombu. It is I might be saying that wrong, forgive me if I am, but it is a kind of kelp, and it has a really strong umami flavor as well that adds to that kind of umami rich flavor that you want from an Asian broth. So I couldn't find that, and so when I was looking at substitutes, it recommended shiitake mushrooms, which we were already going to be adding anyway, and bonito flakes. So these are a dried fish flake. My understanding is that they are actually smoked, but I could have that wrong. So if you know, let me know. I've never used these before, but we will use these right at the end of making our broth. So we're just trying to get all those lovely Asian flavors in here. So I'm going to add probably about a cup of the mushrooms here. So here is our flavor profile we're gonna add to our broth. Just add all of this to our pot. And then this is gonna simmer for 2 or 3 hours. Our broth has been simmering for about 3 hours and I wanna give it a taste. I did taste it after about an hour and a half, and I added about 3 tablespoons of salt for this 2-gallon pot of broth. Oh, that's delicious. That ginger comes through, the garlic, the scallions, it's all really good. And you can taste all of those different elements. I don't know that I'd be able to tell you that it has the shiitake mushrooms in it, but there is some depth of flavor. The umami is really strong in here. So now it's time to add the bonito flakes. Bonito, I'm not really sure how you say this. You can see here, they're just little tiny fish flakes. And the ones I bought came in little pre-portioned packages. So I need about 2 of these for this amount of broth. And it says you just simmer it for a couple of minutes once you add the bonito flakes. Otherwise it can get bitter. So I have this very old, almost as old as me, tea strainer and bags. And I thought that would be a good option for it. Whew, it is very strong, very fishy. I do think this is definitely gonna add some more umami based on the smell. All right, so I'm just gonna dunk this down in here and let it simmer for about 2 minutes. It's been 2 minutes, so I'm gonna get this out of here. Now that we've taken the bonito flakes out, I wanna give it another taste and just see what it tastes like. I do think the umami flavor is a little bit stronger. This broth is so good. I cannot wait to try it with some ramen. And in fact, I think we're gonna pull about a quart out and make some ramen for lunch today for me and my mom. So I don't always do this, but we do like a good jammy egg in our ramen. So I like to take my egg and use a push pin and poke a hole in the bottom, the fat end of the egg versus the skinny end. I find it makes it so much easier to peel the eggs. So get my hole poked in 2 eggs. And then I have a pot of water here boiling. I'm gonna add this to this boiling water and cook these for about 7 minutes. Our eggs are finished cooking, and so I am gonna pull them out and put them in this bowl of ice water to cool. We'll make it a little easier to peel them here in a minute. And then I measured out 4 cups of broth. I like to put my broth into my broth separator or my fat separator here with this little plug. It helps keep the fat all up at the top. So we're gonna go with 4 cups of this broth. I wish you guys could smell it. It smells so good. And then we're gonna get that up to a boil. I did want to mention, in case any of you guys are interested in this ramen from Costco, I misspoke earlier and I said it only came with 8 blocks of ramen in it. It comes with 12, which actually comes out to less than $1 a block. So that's a really good price. So I'm going to pop these in here and you just cook your ramen to package directions. I like to cook mine for about 8 minutes. This brand of ramen in particular kind of gives you a window of how long to cook it, and you're just cooking it to your preferred texture. So for me, that tends to be about 8 minutes. If I had spinach, I really like some wilted spinach in this, although I know it's not in any way traditional, but it's just a nice way to get some extra veggies in. But today we'll just go with some green onions. Do want to do our jammy eggs here. You can see how perfectly they peeled. They gorgeous. And then I just want to drizzle a little bit of tamari in because we like that flavor in our ramen. Just to add a little kick, I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit of red pepper flake. Isn't it beautiful, you guys? But the most important part is how does it taste? So let's check that out. So let's give it a try. I have a fork. I am not good with chopsticks. So, the ginger really comes through in that broth. I really like it a lot. I'm going to be so excited to have this broth on my pantry shelves to make ramen quickly. So I'm going to sit down and eat my ramen, and then we'll get the rest of that broth canned up. We finished our ramen. It was so good, you guys. The ginger flavor in particular, the more you ate, the more bites you had, really started to come through and shine. It was just so good. So now we're ready to can things up. Sorry, my cat just got under my foot. So I'm actually going to follow the directions for canning your own soup because we do really like to have that protein in there. And since we're doing this for like quick lunches and things like that, I am going to add the chicken into the jars. So for two of us, I want probably about 6 ounces of chicken. So get that in there and not make a mess. And I will probably have more broth than I do chicken for jars, and that's okay. If you've been around, you know I have a lot of canned turkey, but I needed the bones for making this broth, and so that's why we have chicken today. So I am just using the strainer tool. I'm straining my broth through the strainer into my fat separator. I just do this rather than having to find somewhere to put all of this broth to refrigerate it to get the fat off. I still end up with a little bit of fat in my jar, but it's not a lot and it's not that big of a deal. And then here's the reason I like to use this fat separator. It has this little plug that keeps the pour spout from getting filled as you're filling. And so when you pull it, all of the fat is up here and not in your pour spout. So now I'm just going to fill this to about 1-inch headspace. Now that I've got this to the 1-inch headspace, I am going to grab a paper towel and some vinegar. Going to wipe this rim down really well, especially because we do have fat in that chicken broth. Get a lid on here. Ooh. Get our ring on fingertip tight. Ooh, very hot. And get this back in the canner. I have all of my jars filled with hot water in the canner, which is also on, just so that we can prevent our jars from having to deal with thermal shock because that broth is so hot. So I am just going to keep doing the same thing over and over until I run out of chicken or broth. I'm sure I'll run out of chicken first, and then I'll just can broth. But we'll come back when it's time to turn the canner on. Well, you guys, I got a full canner load. I got 6 with chicken and 1 without. So that's a nice amount of meals we have here. I am going to get my lid on here. I'm going to turn this up to a medium high, and we are going to get this going. So I'm waiting for this lock to pop and for this to be venting, and then I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. Once that's done, I will add my weight. I have a gauged weight here. I bought this separately from the canner. The canner comes with a weight that is it's automatically 15 pounds and you can't adjust it. So you have to trust the dial gauge. Well, my dial gauge does not work correctly, and I'm not even sure if I can get it tested locally. So this weighted gauge gives me the assurance I need that I am canning at the right weight. This recipe for my elevation calls for 10 pounds of pressure. So this is 5 and this is the other 10. So I will pop that on there once that 10 minutes is up. I don't know if you all can hear it, but my weighted gauge is rocking. So it's come to full pressure. So I have set my timer for 75 minutes. That is the time for quarts of soup, according to the Center for Home Food Preservation. If you want to do pints, the time is 60 minutes. Now, you guys know I have that 1 can that is just broth. If you want to leave the meat out and just do broth, broth cans for 25 minutes for quarts or 20 minutes for pints. So, you have some options here. So once this has finished canning, I will turn the heat off. We will let the pressure drop completely, and then we'll come back. So our broth has finished and the pressure has come down. So I'm going to take our weight off. I'm going to take the lid off and just set it kind of off to the side for a little bit, probably about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and take our broth out of the canner. Don't know if you guys could hear that. My jars are already sealing. Well, you guys, here we have it, the finished product. I am really happy about this. On a day where I had a few hours to dedicate to doing this, and now I have this delicious broth. I'm telling you, that ginger and the garlic, it just comes through so nicely. And so, it took a few hours today, but now we have 7 meals worth of ramen. That's only going to take me like 10 minutes on a day when I don't have a lot of time. So I hope you find this inspiring to maybe try and play around with your broth flavors and make something maybe a little different than what you normally would. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Bye.